the most important part, the second most important part, apart from the pterygoparietal fossa, is the infratemporal fossa. So I think by and large everybody should know this, and if you are in Tata, you should be the ones when you join some other center, teach people what is infratemporal fossa in depth, and people should get mesmerized by you that you know infratemporal fossa so well. So infratemporal, it's overhyped thing. I think it's just a very simple subject. There are few parts which are part of the infratemporal fossa and not part of the masticator space. Remember, the infratemporal fossa is medial to the inner border of the mandible. Mandible is not part of the infratemporal fossa. Okay, it's only the soft tissue containing space. The only bone in the infratemporal fossa is the pterygoid plate. The only bone in the infratemporal fossa is the pterygoid plate. It extends from the pharyngeal mucosal space up to the medial wall of the mandible. So what all structures you will see when you will go from the pharyngeal mucosal space up to the medial wall of the mandible? You will see the pharyngeal mucosal space, the parapharyngeal fat, then you will see the medial pterygoid or the lateral pterygoid, depending on which level you are, and then the medial wall of the mandible. That's it. It ends there. Now, if I take out the parapharyngeal space, so I started from the pharyngeal mucosal space, I included the fat of the parapharyngeal space, included the medial and the lateral pterygoid muscles, and reached up to the medial wall of the mandible. Some bit of the fat in the retroenteral space also. This is the maxillary antrum. This is the fat in the retroenteral space. So whatever was there in that area we included and we formed the infratemporal fossa. Now if I exclude the parapharyngeal space but I include the mandible and the masseter, then it becomes the masticator space. So masticator space had masseter and mandible and medial pterygoid and lateral pterygoid. The only extra thing there are all M's and one lateral pterygoid in it. So masseter, mandible, medial pterygoid and lateral pterygoid. But in the infratemporal fossa, you are excluding the masseter and the mandible, but you are including parapharyngeal space and the pharyngeal mucosal space also. So remember this. Everybody's clear?
How should we get reported? Like if it's high ITF involvement in the coronoid process is only thing.
I knew it was coming. Yeah. So remember the coronoid process. My take on this is like, disease is not like black and white. It does not end there only. When I see temporalis muscle which are bulky, they don't end till my eyes are seen. They have a margin up and down. So if the coronal process is involved, I'm coming to the next section. So this is on the coronal section, how it is in the boundary. The masseter muscle on the outer aspect of the mandible proper, the two pterygoids, the lateral pterygoid and the medial pterygoid. The more horizontal is the lateral pterygoid, the one which is vertical is the medial pterygoid. And if you include the pharyngeal mucosal space and the parapharyngeal space fat, it becomes the infratemporal fossa. This is again a diagrammatic representation. So this is what we use as the landmark. Somebody the other day told me that do a reefer mat and reach on the. Sometimes you have obliquity. You said it, na? It was a very good point. Can you tell that?
No, because sometimes the angle which they have taken the axons, you can see mandibular notch at any level, but in sagittal you cannot manipulate it. It cannot come higher or lower. So if you want to see exactly if it is reaching above the mandibular notch or not, you should see it on sagittal.
So everybody understood.
If you have any confusion,
like if you kept the neck like this, the cut of the how you acquire may be different than you may. The notch is like getting altered. You see, depending on the angle at which you have acquired. But on the sagittal, the notch will not get altered at all. So you take your cursor on the sagittal if you are in doubt and see whether the disease is going above that level or not. If you are in doubt, if the acquisition, the only two areas where the acquisition may change the whole thing is at the larynx when you have thyroid cartilage, the paraglottic space, and at the sigmoid notch. So there, if you are in doubt, the acquisition is not proper, then you use the coronal in the larynx and sagittal in the notch left. So this is the sub-notch. Any disease above the sigmoid notch is disease extending into the high infratemporal fossa. The anterior part of the notch is the coronoid process. I per se, if a coronoid process is involved, I call it infratemporal fossa involvement, high ITF involvement, because the coronoid process, when it is disrupted, it is eroded, it throws disease along the medial side also. So it forms the part of the infratemporal fossa. It is high ITF and it is the temporalis muscle inserts close to the coronoid process. So it's very difficult to have negative margins in this area. This concept I've already explained. I think we end here and then RMT and tongue will do sometime later.